welcome back to Cross Stitch the Globe. This is a channel about cross stitch. I'm Stephanie.
I'm Allison.
And today is a Flosstube Extra. We're going to discuss the most expensive cross stitch patterns. Now, I do like to dabble in buying, use Mirabilia patterns, and that has led me to some de-stash groups and some other places of the internet where you buy used patterns, and every once in a while you'll see a pattern go by for like hundreds of dollars. You'll just be like, what? Or that's pretty, but is what
why? I want to know why.
And we're not gonna, so first of all, we're not judging anyone who spent a lot of money on a pattern, because even if you spend hundreds of dollars, if you actually stitch the whole pattern, per hour, you would not be paying very much money for the amount of enjoyment that it would give you. So we're not judging people.
That's a good point.
For the amount of money they spent. Also, like, if you bought the most expensive pattern on this list, stitched it monogamously, and sold it for what you paid for it, you would spend less on patterns than me.
Really?
Because, like, and so there's all, like, because I have a stash of patterns I'm not stitching, and I have 30 projects. So it's all relative. So we're not judging people for buying these patterns.
I just think it's interesting.
We're not making any judgments about the content of the patterns and like because and we'll talk about it, but there are lots of different things that can make a pattern valuable. We simply did the research to find what the 25 most expensive cross stitch patterns were, and we are going to show them, because I think if you are like me and you're a little voyeuristic and you like a little tea, this might be something that you find interesting.
And maybe you'll see something where you're like, that would totally be worth it. That's for me.
Yeah,
and others you're gonna be like, I can't believe anyone would pay that much.
Yeah.
But somebody out there, that's their perfect pattern.
And in these 25 patterns, the styles of these patterns are very different from one another. So there probably is something in there that'll make you go, and something that'll be like, oh, well, that's really pretty. I totally get it.
Yeah.
And what's more interesting to me is the ones where I'm like, knowing how expensive they are makes me more interested in stitching it and gives you a little FOMO. And that's where I have to be like, no, Stephanie, no, don't do it.
There are other FOMO, man.
There are other Mirabilias that
you need to work
that are very reasonably priced. Just for full disclosure, we thought about it, we looked it up. The most amount of money I have ever spent on a pattern was I bought Christmas Elegance off of eBay for $49, which is actually like a pretty good price for that pattern. It's an out of print, very early Mirabilia that is like Christmas themed, and I'll show it here because I didn't bring it.
But it's gorgeous.
But it's like, for me, that would be worth it. It would also be great if I could actually get it stitched and sell it, but like, we don't know if that's gonna happen.
Yeah.
And what was did you look it up? What was the most amount of money you've ever spent on like a paper pattern or a PDF pattern? Not a kit.
Not a kit. So my ink circles one, I spent $22.
Okay.
And it's a full year long. I'm doing it as a full year long stitch. So $22 did not seem like anything.
And you have the Stitch for Pride, which is like a really cool stitch along that's like exclusive.
It is, but it's like 12 mini patterns. I'm stitching it as
12 mini patterns, and it's got like learning modules and everything, and that was like 25.
It was 30.
30.
Yeah,
30 Canadian.
Well, it was 30 Canadian, so we got a deal. Or I got a deal. But
so
if you're American.
It's not that we've never spent more than like $7 on a pattern. We just I just have never spent this amount of money on a pattern. But I said,
you pointed out I have patterns that are worth more, but de-stash groups are wonderful and you're really good at finding.
Well, this thing is like so the next extra we're going to release is about like buying cross stitch supplies on eBay, and one whole section is like how to figure out what something is worth, so you can then know like what you're personally willing to pay for it. So like, there are lots of times that Christmas Elegance is listed at $60 or $70 dollars, and as towards Christmas, I could see the prices go up. And I was very happy with the price that I paid, because like the $49 included taxes and shipping, so I think I got it for like 40-ish, which for that pattern is like pretty good.
Yeah.
But like, you have to know what you want. And like, a lot of these patterns on this list are people's unicorn pattern, and the unicorn pattern is like that magical pattern that's out there that they like don't know if they'll ever get to stitch, and it would be worth, if you've been thinking about a pattern for a decade, and it's like your splurge, it would be worth just doing it.
Yeah, totally.
All right, so before we get into the actual list, maybe think to yourself, like, how much would you be willing to pay for your own personal unicorn pattern? And you might find out if it's more or less than these prices. Just as a heads up, I pulled all the data from 2023 and 2024 so far, completed sales on eBay. So all of these prices are something someone actually paid for these patterns. We can't know what a pattern is like worth. And if a pattern didn't go for sale through eBay, we don't know. So there probably are patterns that are out there that are worth more, but have not been sold in a way where we would know what they are sold for.
Yeah.
There are other places I can see sales, like in the D-Stash groups on Facebook, you can see if people bought something, but there's so many different kinds of things that go through there in a not searchable way that unless I know some of the ones went for prices similar to this, but I tried to comb through it, and it's I went through 2 days worth of data. I was like, I can't, this is not gonna work. It's too time consuming. Whereas eBay is very searchable.
Yeah.
And then obviously there's private sales, Facebook Marketplace. This is not all of the patterns that were sold for high amounts. These are the ones that we could verify. And then this excludes kits. So if they had even the DMC, we just excluded it because how do you place the value on the thread? The ease of it just being all together. So we're gonna make another video later where we do the most expensive kits, and that will be fun.
And I will contribute to that one.
Allison actually owns the most expensive kit of the two of us. So I excluded kits. I excluded any lots with multiple patterns, even if you could tell which pattern was making the lot the most valuable. It's just it's hard to know how people in their minds are valuing different things. I excluded, and I also excluded cross stitch books because there are some rare cross stitch books, and we're gonna do another video about that because that'll be interesting too. And then the data did select all locations, but I can't tell if that included all locations only done in English because there was only one pattern that was not an English language company, but I also don't know how.
That's interesting.
I don't know how popular cross stitch secondary market stuff, at a certain point it's hard to know. We're a very small subset of fiber arts to begin with. How do you
we could drill down.
And then a couple things to remember. What makes a pattern valuable? So this, as far as me, this is my opinion, what makes something valuable or not. And feel free in the comments to tell us, especially if you're a collector of expensive patterns, especially if you're a collector who likes to stitch them and not just flip them. What makes them valuable to you? I'd love to know because I'm obviously I value some patterns more than I value others, or I wouldn't have bought any out of print patterns. But people in groups will be oh, this is so expensive, and then someone else will be it's just supply and demand, and that's not exactly right because anybody that remembers the 90s knows that Beanie Babies and supply and demand and value. When you're talking about collector's items, it's not exactly correlated. And then trends and tastes change over time. Some of these patterns are very rare because the company is out of business, and so
which is why
they may never be able to be reprinted. But some companies are out of business but have the ability to maybe potentially reprint them. So ability to go back into circulation also affects the value. And there's one on this list where that is very interesting. It's an interesting tale. And then just remember, just something being out of print, even out of print from one of the companies on this list, does not make it valuable. Just for example, this is an out of print, very early MD number 10 Mirabilia that I bought for $7, and I have another copy that I bought for $2. The reason I bought a second one is not because it's an investment, but because my first one had some places where I couldn't read it, because these patterns wrinkle really easily. So I bought a $7 copy so I could figure out where what is wrong with my $2 copy, and then maybe pass this on. But yeah, so that was made at the same time as some of the patterns on this list and is worth 5%. So just because something is one of these companies and out of print doesn't make it valuable. So there's more going into this. I do think there's a level of FOMO. I do think Flosstube people seeing what other people are stitching contributes to it.
Absolutely.
But it's hard to know.
Well, and
And some of these patterns on this list, I've watched thousands of hours of Flosstube. I've never seen being stitched by anyone. But I found blogs where people were talking about stitching it. Like, so
Maybe
it's just
because they were so rare, or because it's just not popular right now.
Well, it's obviously popular enough that someone paid for it on this list. But some of these patterns only go up for sale once or twice a year, which I think also contributes to them being valuable. Whereas other ones go up for sale 30 or 40 times a year and are still that high. So it's just all interesting. But all right, so the way we're going to do this, Allison has not seen these patterns. So I pulled all this data because Allison's also, like, of the two of us, Allison is more frugal and is not going to go even like do the research because she's got no interest.
Do the research, but I would balk at everything and like send her like, this one was 40, and she'd be like, okay.
Okay, yeah, okay, it's more where like I'm curious, not because I want to buy it, but because I'm like more adjacent. I'm in an adjacent but lower tiered marketplace, and so it's interesting to me.
Yeah.
Whereas for you, it's like, why are these people doing this?
Like, why? Why would you?
So the way we're gonna do this
great freebies out there. Maybe we do an episode for us about the freebies and where you can
that
find
we should
them.
do. And there are tons of freebies. There's some great ones. And you know who always?
Liz Matthews has a lot of good
There's
freebies.
a good Flosstube, and I can't remember who it is, but Black Ribbon Stitch Studio. She has a free to me section where she lists things that she found freebie. So definitely go check her out. And also, I love a freebie and I love a vintage pattern.
Yeah.
If someone lent me one of these, there are some that I would stitch and I'd be very honored. But there are some that even if lent one of these, I probably wouldn't be interested in stitching them because they're not my style.
Right.
You're still committing a lot of time to them just because they're valuable.
Yeah.
Okay, so the way we're gonna do this is first, I'm going to list 5 honorable mentions. I don't have pictures of them, but I'm just going to tell you guys what they are and flash the pictures, but I can't show Allison because I didn't get those pictures yet.
I guess I'll have to watch her extra.
We do anyway, because we need the views. So that's going to be just this first little blip of a section. And then we're going to go through the top 25. Allison does not know what these are, and even ones that are like very famous, she might not recognize. So I'm going to show her the picture. You're going to see her reaction, but she's not going to say, we're just going to watch her silent reaction, but she's not going to make a comment about like if she would stitch it or not or anything like that, because, you know, some of these are unicorns. We're not going to like insult anyone's unicorn, but I do think it'd be fun just to like watch her look at the pattern, and then I'm going to show you guys the pattern. And then I'm going to tell you what it sold for. Okay. Then after that, I have some like wrap up thoughts at the end. Okay. So the honorable mention patterns are, and these all sold for right under $150.
That's the honorable mentions.
The honorable mentions are patterns. Everything on our list sold for $150 or more.
Wow.
These are 5 patterns that sold for right under $150 or right at $150 and didn't make our top 25. Okay. Mirabilia's Maids of the Season 2.
Don't know what that one looks like.
Yeah, I have to like kind of be slow because I want to give you guys enough time to see the picture, and I think the pictures flash for like 10 seconds. Okay, so Birds of a Feather, which is the company, and they have a lot of entries on this list because they're out of, like, all of their patterns are out of print. Memory of Christmas, which you guys can see here. Remember this pattern because this pattern will come up again later. It's by a company called Amon Ami Pierre, which is a French company, and it's Gigi Quaker number 2, which you guys can see here.
I like me a Quaker.
And then this one will, it might be this one that comes up later, but just remember them both. The Primitive Needle Black Sky, and the Primitive Needle, I think is another company where they're completely out of business, and so they have like, a lot of their patterns have a higher value because of that. Yeah. And then this is the only time Hands-On Design appeared on this list, but the Philanthropic Pumpkin. And I don't think of them as like a highly collectible out of print company. So I don't know, this might have been a special one-off, but the Philanthropic Pumpkin. All right, now let me I forgot to get the pictures.
I don't know why I'm nervous.
Okay. All right. I gotta go back and forth between 2 things. So number 25 is Birds of a Feather Snowman Family Ornaments. And Allison, I'm gonna show you. I don't think this was the best way I could have organized all of this, but I will be just cutting stuff out later.
I'll be Chop, chop, chop.
I keep these secret. This is probably gonna cut, but we'll see.
Okay.
Okay, and now I'm gonna show you guys. Okay, this pattern sold for $152. Now all my prices include the shipping because usually the shipping is set and sometimes some of the cost is offloaded into the shipping. But it doesn't include the taxes because we don't know the person who bought it. Like,
show it to me again. How big was it? It's a bunch of mini.
It's 6 mini ornaments.
Mini ornaments.
That all say, they say things like snowman, snow baby, snow dog.
Okay.
It's a family of snowmen.
It's a family of snowmen.
Okay.
And women, apparently.
That was number 25.
Okay. Okay. $152.
$152.
But you get 6 patterns. They're small.
That's right. 6 smalls.
6 smalls for $100.
All right. Number 24 is Blackbird Designs and To All a Good Night, which is Loose Feathers number 11. Let me find it. Okay, I couldn't find the picture of the pattern, but that's a picture of a stitched version. This is so fun. Okay, this is what the pattern looks like. Okay, and that one sold for $154.64. You remember, Allison prefers a free pattern.
I prefer a free pattern, yeah.
To like, so this is so fun. Okay. But again, if this is your unicorn, we totally 100%
can I
appreciate.
say whether or not I like the pattern?
You can say if you
I do like
if
it.
you like a pattern.
I do like
Don't say
it.
if you don't like a
Okay,
pattern. Because
okay.
like, you know.
Well, and some I like more than others, and I wouldn't stitch it just because it's not my style, but I do like the pattern.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the idea is that like
somebody will.
we respect if it's your unicorn. If you're the person who purchased it, we respect your opinions and like. But
I'm not a house stitcher, but I get it.
But we just are just enjoying seeing what is out there. Okay. Number 23 is another Birds of a Feather Frosty Christmas Stocking. Here you guys go. Here it is for you. All right. Are you ready?
I am. I'm curious about this one.
That pattern sold for $155.50.
Now, is it out of print?
Yeah, all the Birds of a Feather are very out of print.
They're all very out of print.
Yeah, and I don't know if they were like I think like I own some Birds of a Feather that are very small, like one smalls, and I think they're like worth $40.
Oh wow!
I bought them in a bundle. I didn't pay.
Yeah.
I bought them in a bundle, and I have been thinking like I should probably sell them because somebody would want them.
That.
They're very popular, and I'm not going to stitch them.
Well, okay. Here are my thoughts. It's a stocking. I would pay more for a stocking.
I do think stocking patterns, especially out of print stocking patterns and out of print stocking kits, are very popular because there's so much nostalgia related to the stocking.
It feels more like a heritage piece, which I would pay more for.
And I do think there's a reason that like the Birds of a Feather Christmas malls are the ones we've seen on the list, and not like all the stuff. There is definitely a theme of like Christmas and patriotism as themes are like very prevalent in this list.
Get some coffee.
Okay. All right. Number 22, sorry, is one that I was like looking out for. I was like, okay, this has got to be on the list. Okay. It's a Mirabilia, and I'm more familiar with like what the Mirabilia prices are than other.
You're a huge Mirabilia fan, aren't you?
I just became one on accident. I didn't mean to. Okay, wait. Did I not move the picture? I might have to Google this one. Oh wait, no, here she is. Okay. Mirabilia Queen of Peace.
I have seen that one before.
Yeah. I think a lot of the Mirabilias on the list you'll have seen. So if you guys haven't seen this one yet, here she is. And she sold for $156.45. And I found another verified sale for $153.
I'm not gonna lie. It's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. In fact, okay, so that's just the pattern. We're not talking about a kit.
Right.
Then how much is it actually, Mirabilias are huge.
The one thing I do like about the older Mirabilias is they don't use as many like specialty things. So like kidding up, some of them is a little less expensive because yes, they use beads. Like Fairy Flora, I bought it right before it went out of print and I'm stitching it, but it's the same like era, like it's early like mid 90s Mirabilia. And it has a lot of beads, which I haven't bought yet because I'm not going to buy beads until I'm like within 6 months of actually going to stitch it or need them. But all the floss are just DMC. So I didn't have to buy anything. Okay. There's one blending filament. So like, whereas like some of the newer ones are way more expensive. Also, like, are you going to stitch it? You can stitch a Mirabilia on Ada. Like,
can you? They're not specialty stitches?
There's like half stitches and stuff, but you can do it.
I do it on Ada.
And it's
I know that it's a thing. People
stitch it on Ada all the time. They do a 14 or 16 count. But like, you know, it's like, so also like there's $8 patterns where by the time you bought all the overdyed floss and all of the things are like in the $60 or $70 to kit. Yeah. So
I heard those Shadow Lane ones are hundreds of dollars.
Hundreds of dollars, yeah. Like, and we'll talk about that in the most expensive kits. All right, so next one is a pattern I had not heard of before by Blackbird Designs. It's called Elevon Remember Me number 4. And I guess it's from a series that Blackbird Designs did of 9 family history patterns. All right, you can see that here. It's another in the house. It's another house. Yeah. I think it's really cute. If I didn't know that it was out of print too, like,
it'd be an option.
I probably wouldn't, but it's definitely something that like it doesn't seem. It's hard. It's like I don't know why that one is
rare,
different than other ones. Although Blackbird Designs just like a bunch of stuff went out of print and then they brought some stuff back, but not others. All right, so that one sold for $157.35. But I also saw one for sale that went for only $53. So some of these patterns don't go on the market that much. And sometimes, and I'll talk about this more in our eBay buying extra. And sometimes people who sell them aren't trying to get the most amount of money or don't even know what something's worth.
Right.
Things for auctions can either go really high, but sometimes auctions can go low. Yeah. Okay, so the next one is Birds of a Feather, A Joyous Christmas Nativity. Let me show you. I'm curious to see I'm just gonna watch your face.
Okay.
All right, and you guys can see it here. I like a nativity pattern. This is probably not the one I would choose to stitch, even if it was just a regular price, but I get why someone might be like nostalgia for this particular. It seems like this company is just a particular style. Yeah. People just if you love it, you love it, and you're sad that it's all out of print.
Yeah.
All right, so that one sold for $160.
No, I don't understand.
But again, if it's your thing, I think you should do it. Like if that's what you want.
I think it's interesting that it has nothing to do with size. It has nothing to do with because if I was going to spend $150, it's going to be a tapestry.
The Mirabilias to me are like some of the ones that are expensive are like 3 feet tall.
Okay. And I get that a little bit more because that's like harder to chart.
On the flip side, a $160 pattern that you could stitch monogamously in a couple weeks, flip it, get it out of here.
You have to be the kind of person who would sell. I'm not the kind of person who would sell.
You would just keep it.
Yeah. It would just be in my collection forever.
Well, and I think I'm
Frankie's.
What was I looking for? Oh, okay. Number 19 is Mirabilia's Touching the Autumn Sky. And a lot of people are stitching this right now. And I know Jessie Marie Does Stuff is stitching this right now. And a lot of people who are stitching this right now. Another thing I want to say, like, a lot of people you see stitching these does not mean they paid this. Like 1 or 2 or 3 people will buy these patterns a year. That's part of why they're expensive is they don't come up that much for sale. Yeah. Or they'll be sold in the detached groups a couple times and like you can't just go buy it. So that's part of why the prices go up. But a lot of people who stitching these currently bought them originally.
Yeah. For probably like $20.
And I have no shame in like the secondary market Mirabilia patterns that I bought are the ones that I love. And this is actually one I think I would stitch.
Oh yes, I've seen people stitch this. Yes,
I really love this one.
I do.
This is more my like in the realm of $160 patterns. This is one where I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I get it. Like, would I buy it? Probably not. But
if I would buy it if it was a small, because if it was a Nora, because Mirabilia scare me. But it's definitely got the colors. And
and let me show you guys the pattern here.
Okay.
But I would.
It is beautiful.
The reason I wouldn't buy it to stitch it is because I wouldn't be disciplined enough to get it stitched and move the pattern along.
Yeah.
But if I could do it, if I can say like, okay, I'm gonna do this for 2 months monogamously and then flip it. But if I had it in my stash, I wouldn't sell it because of the value. Because I'd be like, oh, I might want to stitch it.
Yeah.
This is such a like it's
so
when
you wouldn't spend $160 just to keep it in your stash.
But
is that what you're saying?
Right. I would only spend $160 for that. I was going to actually stitch it
and
then
or pass it on.
Pass it to someone. Either sell it and get my money back or give it as a gift to somebody who like really would also yeah. But for my personal style, I understand that being someone's unicorn. Okay, and that sold for $162.15. I also found 2 sales of it for $150 and $146. So some of them, the times there'll be multiple sales, and I'm always listing the most expensive sale. But some of the lower sales will be like, okay, well, that still tells you if you got it for $160, you didn't get ripped off that much. But there are some where like there are much lower sales, and then I want to know like what happened there.
Yeah.
Okay, the next pattern is Blackbird Designs United We Stand. Now, this one is interesting. Let me show you the picture first. Where is it?
We need to have like,
oh, here we go.
Thinking music. This is United We Stand. This looks familiar. Is somebody doing this?
Probably. And this has a twisted tail that I'll tell in a minute.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so this pattern sold last year, verified on eBay for $164.70, and one sold for $162.50. And then Blackbird released a reprint at National Market in 2023.
Oh no. So now it's worth $20.
Now you can buy it on 123 Stitch.
Oh my god.
So if this was your unicorn, ooh, I don't know if I showed it yet.
It hurts.
Here it is, if I didn't show it already. So,
which is interesting because I would buy the reprint, but I probably wouldn't buy the original at.
And that's okay. It's okay to say like I like a pattern at
$20,
and I don't
not
like it, but but I'm uncomfortable for my budget spending $162.
Yes.
But realistically, if you were going to stitch the whole thing per hour, it's kind of becomes a rounding error when you're talking about like
that. Not that one. That one was a scissors and a needle book.
I bet it would still take a long time because that's probably 40 count.
Even then.
All right, so there was another Blackbird design that sold last year for $75 and then got reprinted. That Winter Wonderland, I think it's called Winter Wonderland, that everyone's stitching right now, it was out of print. Somebody bought it for $75 in November and they released it. So like that's the thing about Blackbird is I don't know if I'd ever spend the money on an old Blackbird pattern because I don't know if I would trust that it wouldn't come back.
Yeah. Whereas
like a company out of completely done. And then the Mirabilias can come back into reprint, but it's like rarer. But like Stargazer has gone in and out, and Stargazer is very popular now. Stargazer. But there have been times when it's been out of print. Mm-hmm. But the thing about Mirabilias is like Nora Corbett has no control over when they're in and out. It's totally Witchell. And so like if Witchell ever decided they wanted to make a bunch of money, they might. So I wouldn't hold on to any of these patterns for their value if the company has any chance of like coming back. But you know, I'm not an expert on like cornering the cross stitch patterns market.
You could be though. Maybe you make that a side job.
Can you imagine? Okay. The next one is similar to the United We Stand. It is Blackbird's Designs America. And here you guys can see right here. And do you see what I mean about like Christmas, seasonal, and patriotism really like, probably there are shorter probably print runs on some of these like seasonal and patriotic items too because they're like smaller markets, but then they become like, because like Blackbird doesn't make money off of people buying them, like Mirabilia doesn't make money off of people buying them on the secondary market. So they're not really trying to make them more valuable in that way. Though I guess they do make money because people like go buy the Blackbirds knowing that they might go out of print. But then once you reintroduced the idea that it could get reprinted, then it's like chaos. So, okay, so America sold for $185.50.
That is actually pretty disappointing because I would stitch that, but I can't imagine ever paying that much money for a pattern.
But if someone lent it to you, you would stitch
I'd
it.
stitch it.
Make a working copy, keep it in a fireproof safe. Make a working copy, stitch it, and give it back, and then you'd be happy as a thing. Yeah. Okay, so that one sold for $185, but I did see verified sales of $166 and $155, and one for $93. So
even $93.
If
it's
you
gorgeous,
really wanted this pattern, I would set an alert on eBay for it and then really watch it.
Yeah.
Okay. Now the next one is a Nora Corbett. So Mirabilia and Nora Corbett are both designed by the designer. Nora Corbett is the artist, and they both are done by the company which puts out the patterns. But the Mirabilias are like, 60,000-ish stitches, give or take.
Quite a bit.
And then the two Nora Corbetts I have are like 10 and 15,000 stitches or something. So this is a Nora Corbett, and this is called Violet, and it's from the Pixies. Let me see. And you can see it here. And one of the ways you can tell like a Nora from a Mira, when you can't tell in the picture like the size, is that the Noras, like, they don't have facial details. So there's a little details missing on top of the fact that they're smaller, and that's part of why they're easier to stitch.
Oh, I did not know that.
Not that I'm an expert, because the one Nora Corbett piece that I'm stitching isn't a traditional one, but I've listened to a lot of other people talk about it.
Well, I've seen a lot of people stitching those fairies. So what do they normally go for?
So almost all patterns from Nora Corbett and Mirabilia are in the $12 to $16 range.
Really?
Yeah. And you can get them on sale, like, from time to time. All right. Violet sold for $191.94. And this is as somebody who really likes that line.
Really, yeah.
But if it was if Violet was my favorite color, or if Violet was my name or something, I'm sure I would feel differently, and it would be like the one for me.
Yeah.
But if it's your unicorn, it's $191.94. I found other sales that was $180, and I found a sale for $41, and I can't understand what was going on. Sometimes if something sells for that little, it will be counterfeit, and sometimes the person just won't know what they had, or will set one of the things about the weird sale was it didn't have a lot of the traditional words weren't in it, so maybe people didn't see it because it didn't have cross stitch pattern. There was weird things about it, but I did find it one sale for $41. I don't know. All right, this next one is by a company that I know their out of print stuff is crazy expensive because they are just completely out of print. So it is The Good Housewife, Ida Mae Crow.
That sounds really familiar.
There, the Fox's Cottage, when she was still doing Flosstube, had a pattern from The Good Housewife that she really wanted to stitch, and I didn't have it, but I have one pattern by The Good Housewife that I offered to lend to her, but she really just wanted her unicorn, but it was a different one than this. It's not this one.
I know, but yeah.
You like it?
Yeah.
You love it?
Yeah.
You get it?
No, because you're about to tell me it costs $100 and up.
Okay, so this pattern cost, verified sales, $192.60. Now, I did see a bundle with her partner Ira Ray Crow, that went for $160, and then I saw another bundle of those two patterns for $85. I don't know what was going on with the $85. And I still don't think you'd be comfortable buying the two patterns for $85. But if those were two of my unicorns and I saw them for $85, I would probably say take the risk. But The Good Housewife, that company's just out front.
Yeah. Well, I really, really, really did like that.
You know who that reminds me of? If you wanted to stitch something similar, it had similar vibes as the Proper Stitchers. Like Penelope,
yes,
Steampunk Penelope,
yes.
and that series.
That's a little bit more.
It scratched the same itch for me, I think.
That the steampunk is cool, but it's just that one was a little bit more homey.
Yeah,
and I kind of like that.
It's like the Cornelius, the Lori Holt chicken. I could see it in the same.
Yeah, for sure.
If I haven't already showed it, I'll show it again. Hopefully, I've already showed it, but I'll just make sure I stick it in now too.
Yeah.
Okay. the next one is another Mirabilia. And this is one that I am sad is so expensive because it is one I could see myself wanting to stitch. It is Madonna of the Garden. And it looks like... And it looks like this. Not your style, but I think as a mom, I like...
Well, as a former Catholic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very Italian. And,
yeah.
So that one went for $205.93.
Oh.
Now I saw 2 verified sales, one for $173 and one for $144. So sometimes the value on things really, it's not that it fluctuates, it's that like the conditions kind of have to be right, and someone has to decide what their upper like limit is.
Do you think because it's more like a religion or cultural thing?
There's another one that's about like, I think it's like Mother in Arms or something. I can't remember the name of it. That's also very expensive. And I think it's like, there are just certain things you stitch. Like, I think as a mom, there are certain things you stitch, like what they did that your kid would enjoy it. But then there are certain things you stitch, like, that kind of like celebrate your feeling of like family and motherhood. And I could see if I wanted to like, now, to celebrate not having any more children, I got laser hair removal. But I could also see like embarking on a 2-year like Madonna and Child's Madonna of the Garden. Like if someone lent this chart to me,
it's beautiful.
I would stitch it, but I just wouldn't spend $200.
Yeah.
But I also, laser hair removal was much more than $200. So it's like we all got to do what we got to do. All right. So the next one is.
What number are we on?
We are on number 13. And it's another Birds of a Feather. And this one is called Dashing Through the Snow. Birds of a Feather is not only a Christmas company, but I don't think it is a coincidence that it's all these Christmas patterns that are the most.
Dashing Through the Snow.
And by now you know, like, oh, that's a Birds of a Feather pattern. You wouldn't even have to see the label. I do have a Birds of a Feather cat you might want to stitch before I get rid of it. It's like a little cat.
We'll see.
Okay, so this is what this one looks like. And at the bottom it says laughing all the way. No, it just says laughing all the way. Then it says 1998. All right, so this pattern went for $212.04. Now I did see one auction go for $78. I really think the auctions are very high or low, like very hit or miss, whereas the buy it nows are like a little bit inflated pricing, but like closer to. Okay. Next pattern is a Nora Corbett, the Silver Dragonfly. And I see people in the Mira groups all the time saying that the 2 dragonflies are like their unicorn patterns. They're very pretty. And I'll show you guys here. And there's 2 of them, and they're actually back to back. So the Silver Dragonfly went for $228.26. Now, I did see one that went for $181.
Okay. I'm trying to work my head around this because they're getting very expensive. So, if you justify it like you would buy a painting, I would spend $200 on a beautiful one-of-a-kind painting. But I don't have to do the work to paint it.
Well, what's crazy to me is like there are some of these where they sell the finished one for less, and they go for less than the pattern because the experience. Well, you're a product stitcher, like you want it on your walls. I'm a process stitcher. The experience of stitching it for a lot of people is enough, and so that's why some of these, or like I can also see some of these. Probably someone's parent probably had some of these, like Julie's stitching journey. No, she's not stitching one of these, but she had a pattern that she got from her mom, and her mom stitched it. It was all in their home at Christmas, and she wanted to stitch the same thing. And luckily, I think her mom still had the pattern.
Oh wow!
And it wasn't like one of these patterns.
Yeah.
But that is like something that kind of emotional connection and journey, like is something that adds value to a pattern. And I don't think it's a coincidence that we see so much Christmas.
No.
On this list.
No, that's true. It's sentimental value.
Yeah. And then the other things for me is like, I'm a completist. Like if I want to complete a series, but there are so many Noras and Mirabilias that's not possible, and it takes a lot of pressure off. But if there were only 25 of a company I liked and they were out of print, I probably would be like,
you're going to search down all 25 of them.
Yeah, I would probably figure out like over time.
Wow.
Or at least I would know about all of them.
I guess
whatever.
I'm not a collector, because that's a very collector thing to say.
No.
I am not a collector.
No. You don't even like owning possessions.
No. Mm-mm.
She would burn her cross stitch like the second it was done. If it like sat in a box, she has to get it on the walls instantly.
That's not true. Since starting Flosstube, I've been finishing more, because before I was monogamy stitcher and I had one project going for 6 months and that was it. I have a stack of stuff I don't know what to do with.
I'm going tomorrow to take in some stuff for framing.
Oh, good. Yay.
Because the patterns that I am selling, I forgot that the first ones I designed, I thought were for like a frame size that doesn't exist, but I thought it did. So I have to go get some custom frames. So I am going in to take some stuff to actually get fully finished, because I don't want to fully finish my own things. I'm not a finisher.
I thought I would get into it, but I'm not going to get into it.
It's just like, I see my own mistakes, whereas I forgive other people's mistakes on things like that.
Yeah.
Whereas in the pattern, I see my mistake and I'm like, oh, I was watching, Abbott Elementary and like whatever, and it's part of its story, but the frame needs to be perfect.
I think yours is funny. It's like, oh, that, and I'm like, oh, that little smudge of chocolate. That's what I was.
Oh, that's just a wine stain.
It's fine.
All right, so the next one is the
that.
companion to the Silver Dragonfly, the Emerald Dragonfly, which, but I see in the Nora and Mirabilia groups that these two are very high on the list of things people like really are mad about, like that are not,
they're not in print.
They're out of print. Their number like 101 and 102, but the way the Mirabilias are numbered is like MD1, MD2, and these are NC 101 and 102. I don't know if these are the first two or if these are, because there's a lot more Noras than there are Mirabilias.
Yeah.
And these could be the first two, but I looked it up. I was trying to figure it out and I couldn't find it, because there's a lot of like volunteer people doing work to try to preserve some of this stuff, but like a lot of this information is just gone. And once Witchell takes a print out of print, they like scrub it from their website basically. All right, so so the silver one, I already told you guys that went for $228.26. The emerald went for $235.95.
Okay.
So if you wanted to stitch both of them, just like
just get a second job. You'll
or
be
just
fine.
like color convert one of them to the other colors and just move on.
Oh.
All right, this is the next one is one that I knew was going to be on this list. Before I started this list, I was like, this one obviously will be. This is a Mirabilia Queen of Freedom, and I bet you've seen this one too.
Yes, and I do love it.
Really?
Yes.
I'm just not this kind of patriot. Like, I'm a patriotic, well, I could see myself stitching Queen of Peace patriotically.
Yeah.
I couldn't see myself stitching this patriotically.
Okay.
But I don't, like, I think it's pretty. Like, if it was on the walls of a hotel room, I would think it was beautiful.
Yeah.
It's right here.
I wouldn't stitch it because I don't want to stitch that. I'm not yet prepared to stitch a Mirabilia, but I like it enough that it would go on a wall.
I think that you've done so many massive projects that once you got into the Mirabilia, it wouldn't stress you out. You should just be like, okay, I'm going to get the DMC and the Karen Water Lilies if the pattern you want has it. And I'm not even going to get the Krennic, and I'm not going to get the D's yet. Because I'm just going to, this is a floss pattern.
Yeah.
Then when you get to the end of that, in a couple years, you'll be ready to do the Krennic, and then you'll be ready to do the beans. I'm
not committed enough to say that, oh yeah, for 2 years I'll be interested enough.
Every single thing that I'm stitching is going to take 2 years. So like everything I pick up is like that. All right. So Queen of Freedom went for $231.70.
Oh my god.
And another verified sale was $205.
Oh my god.
I don't know if this goes for less in the Mirabilia and the D-Stash groups, because there's one Mirabilia group where they don't do sales, but then there's some other ones where they do. And then the D-Stash group, like the way it's not very searchable, and for a while I had it set on like notifications, but just too many things get posted in those groups, so it was like not helpful. So I don't know how you'd actually snag some of these as like a good deal, because like resellers sit in those groups and like pounce. But I don't know if it's sold for that amount in those groups.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next one is the Primitive Needle, which had an entry on our honorable mentions list. This is not a company I was familiar with at all, which probably is part of why it's so valuable. It's that it's just so out of print. This is called Witch's Hollow.
Yes. Yes.
And I'll show you guys.
Yes.
And I really like this pattern, except that I think there's so many things in print that would scratch the same itch for me, and I haven't been staring at it for 20 years.
Yeah.
But I don't know how I would have felt if it like was the first Halloween
Yeah.
pattern I ever saw.
It's a little sparse for my taste. I like.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, this one went for $238.20, and one went for $205.
Wow. It's just so tiny. Like, I'm sure it's big stitch because there's a lot, but the motifs on it are small.
It's funny. It's like there are so many good Halloween. I have a binder full of Halloween patterns I would love to eventually stitch, some of which are out of print, but none of which are worth, the binder isn't worth this amount of money.
Yeah.
All right. The next one on our list is number 8. This is the only Threads Through Time on here. And it is the Anne Rayner 1839 sampler. Oh, it's hard to see because I couldn't get a good picture of the actual stitched. I'm going to put a picture up here of the pattern for you guys, but also I'm going to insert right after that like a screenshot of like a stitched one, because the pattern has like so much text about it, which is super cool. It just is very like, makes it difficult to see the pattern. Okay, so that sampler, which surprisingly is the only like, is one of the only true sampler, old reproduction samplers on here. Maybe because by the time you've done a reproduction sampler, you're going to sell a lot of it, or maybe there's just so many reproduction samplers. I don't know. That one went for $250.
I get it. I 100% get it, because those are so popular.
Yeah.
That if it was rare.
If it was the one that you wanted, you fall in love with that sampler.
Yeah. I get it.
And then there was one that sold for $255, but included the DMC. So I didn't count it. And then one sold for $300 in 2022. So the person that got it for $255 with the DMC got a deal.
Oh, wow.
But I agree. Like, so you just sometimes, if you're a sampler person, sometimes you just need to do the sampler. And also if you're a sampler person, like a real sampler person who knows all the other sampler girlies, you probably know 25 people who'd buy it from you the second you were done with it.
Right.
Like,
right.
And who would be,
it would be very well loved.
Yeah.
Yes. All right.
The next one is another Nora Corbett, and this is one I knew was like pricey, but I had no idea it was. I didn't know it was number 7. I just knew it was like one a lot of people wanted to stitch, and that is Bluebell from Nora Corbett, and it is another pixie.
Oh.
And you know what? I bet. No, that's Blue Bonnet. Wait, Bluebell.
I think, isn't Stitching Mommy? Didn't she stitch that?
Probably.
I think so.
But she probably got it in
originally instead of
2003 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it might be like her, like,
that is very much her.
But it might be like a picture she uses as like an avatar or something. I feel like a picture of her stitch 1 is somewhere.
Oh, maybe.
But yeah, you can see the original $12 price tag. Yeah. Okay, so Bluebell went for $260. One went for $200. One went for $185, and one went for $163.
Oh my god!
So between $163 and $260 is a pretty big range. But I know that that's one of those, and it is just one of those that people like get their heart set on. And I do think if you could stitch, it's a Nora Corbett, you could stitch it in a month or 2 months.
Yeah.
If that was the only thing you stitched. I just wouldn't be able to do that and then get rid of the pattern. The pattern would just languish.
Yeah.
All right. Number 6 is the only entry by this company, a company I never heard from before, Midsummer Night Designs, and it is Peaceful Paradise. And this isn't somebody's stitched copy of it.
Wow.
It's really pretty. And this is like, it's not seasonal, but it's very religious. I can also see why this would be on somebody's.
Yeah.
But I think this was out in the mid 2000s. I don't think this is like a super old pattern.
Really?
And then this is the version from the pattern, but you can't really read it.
Yeah.
So I'll show you guys this here. And it says, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me lie down." And it's a whole Bible verse. And I found a stitched version. So I'll show the pattern version and I'll show the stitched version, because I found a stitched version on a website that I'll link to called Black Sheep something. But I'll link to it where they posted their finish, which was really pretty. Okay, so that one brings us to a whole nother bracket of prices.
Really?
$305.
Oh my gosh.
It's so much more fun just telling you these
Why?
in real time and not having told you beforehand. Like, because like one option would be to have you present half of these.
Yeah.
But this is so much more fun for me. I don't know if it's more fun for you, but it is way more fun for me. All right. Number 5, Birds of a Feather. Surprisingly not a Christmas piece. It's called Welcome Home. But I could not even find a copy of the pattern. I could only find a stitched. I think this is a stitched example.
Stitched?
I think so.
It looks like it's torn up.
Oh, yeah, maybe it is a pattern. It was very hard for me to even find
Yeah.
this. Okay.
Yeah.
Which it lends to why it, and you guys can see it here. Hi, Frankie. Why it is so valuable. I just don't know what about, but like, if this was on your family cabin in 1998, I could see wanting it. I just,
nostalgia, sure.
I've never stitched a Birds of a Feather, whereas like I've stitching Mirabilia's Nora Corbett, so I feel like I get them in a different way.
Yeah.
All right, that one went for $307.50.
Did you see it?
But if you want to stitch it, I totally understand it. And if you love it or have better pictures of it, I'd love to see it.
It has a time and place. They're like the cabin, or if it's a very nostalgic piece for you.
But also, like, that's a pattern you could stitch and get the pattern out of your stash.
Yeah.
But also, these Birds of a Feather are not coming back. So whatever is out, and people used to mark their patterns up, so not every pattern that went out there was even like.
Yeah.
So, all right. Number 4 is another Birds of a Feather.
Okay.
Christmas Angel Ornaments.
Okay. They do have a style, don't they?
They have a very specific style. And if you
Very
like that style,
specific.
like, then that's your style.
The style does remind me of childhood.
Yeah, it's very 90s.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
All right, you guys can see them here. I feel like I saw somebody stitch these recently.
Well, they're reminiscent of some other stuff I've seen.
They're very small too. Like, they're pretty. They are very 90s. If Mom had these on her tree, I would want to stitch them. But I don't have any like emotional connection to them now. All right. They went for $315.
Well, just like,
oh, we're getting into it now. Okay.
Talk about first world problems.
Oh, yeah, totally. But also, like, there's a very big difference between if you're holding onto it to try to flip it versus if you really want to stitch it and like love it and have it on your tree forever. Because like, you could buy a $4 pattern and then spend a lot of money on supplies and then a lot of money on finishing.
Yeah.
If you could finish that yourself and stitch it from stash, like,
it would still be the most expensive thing in your house.
In your house.
Cross stitch wise.
Oh.
Cross stitch wise. Yeah,
cross stitch wise, yeah. Not like compared to the rest of the collection in totality, but like.
No, not like your fridge or something.
Would you rather buy this cross stitch pattern or a car? Okay. This next one is the one I thought was going to come in at number 1. So the fact that there are 2 above it really surprised me. This is Mirabilia's The Lady of the Flag.
Oh, I've seen this one, yes.
And I will say, I'll just show you again just for the continuity, but you know it.
Yeah.
Everyone knows it. And I will say that even though this is like famed as like one of the most expensive, I thought it was the most expensive cross stitch pattern. You guys can see it here if you haven't already seen it. And she is gigantic. I saw an episode, there's an episode of some show and I saw a clip of it where the woman had it stitched behind her and it is like huge. I mean, but this is the one that I see for sale the most often. Really? So like this is expensive because it came out in 2001 or 2002, but it was like a response to like 9/11 and like it was limited edition and I don't know when it went out of print, but it's been out of print for a long time. But it comes up for sale all the time.
Yeah.
So
for how much? Tell us.
$333.33.
So for the low price.
Now, I saw sales for $2.99, $3.12, $3.15, and $3.25. So a lot in that range, but I also have seen it go for way lower.
Yeah.
Not a lot lower, but lower. It also comes up kitted a lot, like, and there's like special fabric that you can do that's got the Constitution that you can buy for it from the Primitive Hair, I think. And this is one I used to see people stitching all the time because I do think people buy it, stitch it, and sell the pattern because you see the pattern for sale all the time.
Yeah.
So, and then this is the one where it is like, do I want to stitch it? I don't think I would want to stitch it, but knowing that it's like $300 and one of the most expensive patterns is like, I think is artificially changing my opinion of it.
You can film it.
Because I think Queen of Peace is like, of the three, like, patriotic Mirabilias is my favorite.
I think that's probably my favorite too.
And somebody's stitching her right now. Lisa from Cross by Floss is stitching Queen of Peace, and it's really beautiful. And everything Lisa stitches is really beautiful, and she has very good taste in like Mirabilias and stuff. But her Queen of Peace is like further along than some of her others, and it's very pretty. All right, number 2, Birds of a Feather, Santa's Elves, Christmas ornaments.
Birds of a Feather is very popular.
Yeah, if you have Birds of a Feather in your collection and you're not stitching them, you might want to go look and see what. Could you send your kids to college? Possibly.
Right, okay.
All right, here. These are giving me Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer Christmas Special Elves vibes.
Mm-hmm. The elf, the dentist. Mm-hmm.
Now, are you ready?
Oh God, no.
$345.
Are you serious? At some point, is it irresponsible?
I mean, if you were to get it, stitch it, and sell it, no.
I guess not.
You might even make $10.
Yeah.
Also, like, if you had 10 people and you were each going to stitch it and pass it to the next person, you each, like, there are a lot of scenarios I can justify, like, things like that, but I wouldn't be able to justify, like, me doing it.
Yeah, I'm talking about me.
It's not my favorite style.
If it was the most beautiful pattern, could I make myself spend $345 on something?
No, I don't think you would.
I don't think I could.
No.
I don't think I could.
I don't think there's a CrossFit pattern I would spend that amount of money on. But I also don't know how I'd feel if I've been stitching for 20 years and always thought a pattern was going to be something I'd want, and then it went out of print, and then all of a sudden it was $300. That would probably be very different.
But if you always wanted it, you would get it by now because you buy what you want.
That's true. But also, like, if you only bought a pattern when you actually at the point where you're going to stitch it, you would spend less money than me, who has a pattern stash. Mm. And then, I could probably say, if I was going to I probably wouldn't do it for Santa's Elves. But, like, if I was going to say, like, let's say I loved Lady of the Flag, and it was my favorite. It'd be easier to justify Queen of Peace. But let's say Queen of Peace cost what Lady of the Flag costs, and I loved her. Instead of spending $10 or $20 on patterns every month, that was the one pattern I bought, and I really stitched her till it was done, and then I went and bought another pattern. Yeah, and I flipped the pattern for what I paid for it.
But then be realistic with yourself, and how realistic are you actually going to
I'm not going to do it because that's not my style.
Exactly, it's not my style.
But if somebody was like a monogamous stitcher who didn't pattern stash, they would probably be spending what a lot of people spend on patterns in a year and stitching as much as other people stitch. They'd just be stitching one project instead of a lot of projects.
Yes.
All right. I already said that was $345.
Yes.
Okay. Now, this is number 1. I was shocked this was number 1. And somebody we know is stitching this. Not me personally, no, but we've seen somebody start this pattern recently. Nora Corbett's Tigerlily.
Oh, we do know someone.
I can't remember. It's like, there definitely is someone who just started or batch started, but I can't remember who. But I thought Lady of the Flag was going to be number 1. I had no idea. I knew Birds of a Feather were expensive. I had no idea how many of them or how expensive.
I've never heard of them before.
Oh.
So expensive. Oh my gosh.
But I had no idea Tigerlily was the number 1 most expensive pattern that sold last year. And she's cute. Like, she's very
cute.
But she's not my favorite of even the ones we've seen so far. But I get why people, and I think people are like, also like nostalgic about the name because of Peter Pan and.
And if you wanted all the fairies, I could see one.
If you're a fairy completist. Yeah. All right. You're not ready, but are you ready?
Nope. Go ahead.
$390.75.
Oh my gosh. And those are the smaller ones, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
But it is a lot of people's unicorn.
Is it?
So I do think that, and like it doesn't go up that much, so that's all artificially not artificially, that is driving up the price, like naturally, because of supply and demand.
Okay.
All right, I did find one that went for $189. So if you're that person, yeah, lucky. All right, just some thoughts before we end this video. Okay, in 2022, so I decided to use only the 2023 data instead of over multiple years because I do think a lot about cross-stitch and prices has changed since the pandemic. Every year, as more and more people get involved and know everything, and so I thought that would make the prices go up. It seems that for some of them, prices actually went down a little bit, but also some of these sell so infrequently that it's good to know what other people pay, but it doesn't mean that that one is going to go for that amount. So also, like if you're trying to flip, or if you have one of these patterns, it doesn't mean you're going to get these prices. It just means at some point somebody paid these prices.
Yeah.
But in 2022, there were no cross-stitch pattern sales on eBay in 2023 or so far this year that topped $400 that were not kits. But there were 2 in 2022. Black Sky by the Primitive Needle, which was an honorable mention this year at around 150. So that shows you 1 year it's 400, 1 year it's 150.
Oh, that's interesting.
If you're trying to send your kids to college, maybe get your patterns out now because you just can't know what's going to happen to them. Yeah. And actually, I did realize I did have that picture, so I can show you. And I kind of get this one more than some other ones. This is a very specific style that people like. It's a cemetery scene.
Yeah, no, I get it.
And I'll show you here.
I get it.
But it's like, I just feel like there's enough other things for me that scratch that itch that I would not pay $400 for. But I get why it's somebody's unicorn.
Yeah.
And then the other one that went for over $400 was Hoodoo Voodoo by the Primitive Needle, so Black Sky went for $457, and Hoodoo Voodoo by the Primitive Needle went for $430. Did I pull that one?
Oh, I need to see this. I'm gonna Google it if you don't have it.
Well, I'll definitely put it in the video, which
okay.
I'm editing tonight, so you'll get to see it tomorrow. I must not have pulled that one. I was pulling these last night, and at a certain point, I was like, I have to sleep.
Okay. That's a surprise for me.
All right, and then, okay, so a couple more thoughts before we end. So those are like, so it does seem like in 2022, prices were, for some were higher, and then also like fluctuate a lot. If you were to buy all 25 patterns on this list at the prices that were paid, now we don't think one person bought all these, but you want to guess how much they all together would be?
No, I'm not that good at math.
$5,691.49.
That is like a used car.
Yeah, so like, and you're not, I mean like, so, no one person is probably out there trying to get all 25. If you happen to naturally have collected all 25 of these over decades of stitching, we would love to know, and also you should sell them.
You should sell them.
Designers by the numbers. If you count Mirabilia and Nora Corbett as one, there were 10, but actually 5 in each category, which I thought was interesting. 7 birds of a feather and 1 in honorable mention. Oh, and there was 1 in honorable mention from Mirabilia and Nora Corbett. 4 blackbird designs, which I would have thought more, but I do wonder if people are just like shaking, knowing actually it could get reprinted at any time. So you better really want to stitch it.
Yeah.
You better not need to recoup your money.
Yeah.
1 from Midsummer Night Designs, 1 from The Good Housewife, 1 from the Primitive Needle, though as you've seen in years past, Primitive Needle can get up there, and 1 by Thread Through Time. 2 companies were in the honorable mention only, Mon Ami Pierre and Hands On Design, and I would love to know what the story behind that Hands On Design is, because that's not, I don't associate Hands On Design with like out of print, hard to find, like unicorn patterns, but that one went for almost $150. And then the 2 that came up the most in terms of like were for sale on eBay the most by far was Our Lady of the Flag and Queen of Freedom. A lot of these other ones were once or twice. So the next extra, like I said, is going to be like tips for buying on eBay. If any of these is your unicorn and you're not subscribed, subscribe and then watch that video and then do what you need to do to find out when those go for sale, because they don't go for sale very often.
Yeah.
How are you feeling? Do you feel a little sick to your stomach?
Well,
I feel a little.
lot of
I feel
money.
like I'm standing on the edge of a cliff a little bit.
Yeah, That's a lot. What do you mean edge of a cliff?
Like just like not like I'm about to buy anything, but just
I was like,
it is
what are you gonna buy?
Like it's a little disorienting to be like, oh man, things really go for that much.
They were much higher than I thought. They are.
I didn't let her know what was coming.
No, and I was surprised at some of the patterns, the sizes.
Yeah,
I'm hung up on that. Like my stomach is roughly.
Well, like I guess just like there are certain companies where you just love, if you love them, you love that company, and you get into that company and you love that style, and then it goes with everything else you own.
That's true.
And maybe all your friends stitched it, and you really want to stitch it. And maybe there's only, but I have no idea. Like, are there 50 copies left? Or are there 1,000 copies left? Like, I don't know. It's hard to know any of that.
It is.
So you can only know how scarce something is in this world. For me, I can only know relative to like, oh, it came up for sale once versus it came up for sale 30 times. But also, if people have Lady of the Flag in their collection, they know that's a valuable pattern. They might not know that they're holding on to some of these other ones that are valuable. Yeah. Like I said, I have a couple birds of a feather that I got in like a pack of like where I got like 6 patterns for $10 or $15, and they're worth 40. I don't know if I'd actually get 40, but like, yeah, I should show them to you and let you see if you want to stitch them before we.
But I don't
get rid of them.
Yeah.
I just don't need to have them in my collection if I know I'm never going to stitch them and people want them this much. People would like really care about them. Yeah. So, all right. In the comments, if you got to this point in the comments, leave a $sign. Not a type dollar, like leave a dollar emoji or a money emoji, any of those emojis, just to let us know. It'll be our secret language. But in the comments, let us, if you want to tell us how much you've ever paid for a pattern.
What is the most you've ever paid
for? Or how much you would pay for a pattern. Do be nice. We're not telling anyone they shouldn't buy these if this is their unicorn, like obviously. But that doesn't mean your unicorn is someone else's not unicorn. So like, you can be funny, but just be nice. We're not gonna like anything that seems like over the line. I'll just delete politely. Yeah. All right, and thank you guys so much for watching. If you're not subscribed, subscribe because we have lots of fun videos like this planned for the next few months. And then like the video too, it helps us. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Bye.